Hello everyone, welcome to today's session as part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit Valencia 2024. Thank you for joining. My name is Artur and I will be your moderator today. Artur Tomczak will also be moderating and introducing the speakers. Today's session is titled Data Consistency, the Role of BSDD in the Open BIM Workflow, Elevating Data Quality and Interoperability. The session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions during the session. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of this session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For the attendees here in the room, please keep background noise to a minimum. And if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and use the microphone. I would also like to bring to your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that the participation in the development of standards is unrestricted, and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favour any particular provider and are open, non-binding and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now I'll hand over to Artur.
Thank you. Thank you, Ra. Today's session will be quite intensive. We have the general topic of data consistency, but we would like to show a practical demo based on the use case of WaterNet, which will be presented by Anouk from Otterlo from the WaterNet, presenting the WaterNet today. And the demo itself of the BSDD plugin for Revit, made by and presented by Brouwer, 3D data specialist from DigiBase, and Stijn from Schaijk, from process manager from DigiBase. So welcome all our guests. And later we will also talk about the IFC translation project, which was mentioned by Clive in the keynote session, and 2 slides with BSDD updates at the end. We'll have a Q&A session, so please think about the questions that you want to ask our guests, which will be more or less in the middle of the session. And I will start with a quick introduction. And I want to open with this number. We just had a sustainability session in the other room, but if I just show you this number, it doesn't really convey much meaning. We cannot say if it's a lot or not so much, because we don't know what this value represents. But if I tell you that this number represents the, let's simplify it to the impact that our industry has on the climate change, this value is quite scary. But in order to understand really what this value means, we need to know how it is calculated, how it is measured. We need to agree that this value means the same for all of us, and only then we can improve, we can compare the projects, and we can basically reduce our impact on the planet. But we know that often our BIM models are not so consistent, so we cannot really compare one project to the other. We barely can sometimes tell if the value is we can trust, if we can tell that this value is exactly the same as the value in different projects. So we thought, okay, let's do the session about data consistency and what data consistency means to us. I know this definition would differ depending if you're a software developer, LCA expert, or designer. But for us, consistent data is the data that is well structured, clearly defined, and we have quite some good standards that help us structure and define the data, understood equally by everyone. And this is highly important, because if we have 2 properties with the same name, but they mean different things to us, we cannot compare them one-to-one. The data should be collected in the same way, measured in the same way. If we are talking about the area, we need to know that we both think about the same area. Is it the net area or gross area, including openings or not, and so on. It should be also formatted uniformly across applications, and here comes the IFC standard, which is supposed to help us with this. it should also follow a certain specification, whether it's global or national or context specific. And the IDS standard, which you all already heard about, is helping us to define the specification and apply it. The data should be also subject to quality control so that we can be sure that it's trustworthy. And it should be also up to date, so we don't have outdated files and outdated databases. But for me, it's also really important that it is applied by many, meaning that it's not just in the project scope that we agreed on the consistent terminology, but that we can also share it with other companies, other projects, other countries, and hopefully one day globally on what are the data structures that we are using and what are we getting when we have consistent data. It's important because we have, as I already said, consistent interpretation of the values. We can rely on this data. We don't have to, for example, recreate the data every time we need to do new analysis. We can just trust the data that we collect. We can automate the processes, whether it's calculation of environmental impact, cost estimation, or else, or structural analysis, for example. We can automate the repetitive part. And really important to me is that we can learn from projects, we can recognize patterns, we can employ AI to help us recognize those patterns and learn from project to project. Okay, those are the theoretic assumptions we have, but let's look at the open team solutions. And today we will mostly focus on the IFC, IDS, and the BACD. IDS and IFC are the standards that tell us how to specify and capture information. And BACD is a service, a database providing definitions that could be applied in IDS specification and IFC models. And I don't want to spend too much time because we will have a great example to show it in practice. Last slide from me, a few words about the BACD itself. So, as I said, it's not a standard, it's a service that we provide as buildingSMART free of charge to distribute what we call data dictionaries. But you are maybe familiar with other terminology like classification systems, terminology, ontologies, which we will hear about, and all of them can be distributed through this common open database with proper interfaces. Then all of this data can be interconnected, so we can also say how our data structure maps to a different one, how our national classification maps to classification from other country, and thanks to this we can better understand the data that we are receiving and creating. It's all based on international standards, it's interoperable, we use common technology to provide access through the software that you are already familiar with, so we don't need to have let's say, dedicated solutions for each classification system. We can have one joint interface to connect all of this terminology, and we can reuse the content that is in BACD. We don't have to define for each purpose, for each project, how do we call the area, because we can already reuse the definitions that are standardized from all of the organizations that already published in BACD. And I would like to invite Anouk to present the WaterNet use case.
Thank you, Artur, for inviting WaterNet and me to present our proof of concept of our use case with WaterNet and 2G and BACD and IDS. My name is Anouk and I will be presenting for WaterNet. I'm a consultant focusing on asset information management at BASE. I'm working at WaterNet. What I really want to mention is that I didn't work on this alone. I worked together with Arjan, Alexander, Sander, and Wim on this together. And I think we made great results the past months. So I'm going to show you why data consistency and making use of more open standards is so important for WaterNet and why this can help us improve our processes. So at WaterNet we are implementing BIM and asset information management, We do that based on the ISO 19650 process, where we define our information requirements at the beginning, we use them in a project. We have different data blocks where we check and verify the information delivered, especially during the handover. It's important that we get the correct information and we can put that in our different facility management and GIS systems. And what we really want to try is to make it better, easier to implement, and more based on open standards, so that more of a contractors and other parties we work together with can easily adapt to our needs and to what we want. I've got to mention Waternet is a water company, and we focus on the whole water cycle, so that's maybe also interesting to know. That we focus on drinking water, cleaning sewage water, and water management to keep the good ground levels and don't get wet feet because the land is a bit below the sea level. We do this in Amsterdam and the areas around it. So, and that we try to, we are trying to use more percentages. So first, we would like to change the information in IFC. What we noticed is that IFC is not very deep or specific for water specific objects. So, besides this use case, we are also started. We have a call for participation for the water domain. This morning, Alexander and Richard Kelly had a session about this. So we had some nice people joining us, and we are going to think about how can we improve this for the water sector. So this is a link to our call for participation, and there's also a very nice white paper we wrote, or actually the Germans wrote, Germans already wrote it, and we made an English version of it. So it's, if you're interested in the water domain, please scan the QR codes. So we try to use IFC, but because there are so many specific water terms in our domain, we developed an ontology, also called the WaterNet OTL, object type library, and we define actually other objects, the definitions, how they should be called, which properties we want per object, also which documents we would like to have delivered. And we have there in the speech just like a taxonomy structure in there. We also have a decomposition about how our asset structures are decomposed by what smaller parts of objects. So this is a very detailed data structure published in linked data, which is also very technological standards, but it's not so well known by everyone in the market. I like that to compare a little bit to experience we had yesterday. So yesterday I went with a group of other people, mostly Dutch people, to the restaurant close by, and we ordered. We asked for a combination. What should we order? And they recommended a very special steak. It was from a blonde cow or something. We got it very big pieces. It was aged for several for a time, so it had a specific flavor. And we had a very good experience. It's mostly because they of course, they had this great products, but they cooked this very well, they cooked it in the right way, they served nice dishes around it, and we got it a nice Mexican wine. So the overall experience was very good, and they served this to us, so that we were happy eating it. And what also was very, what I noticed, I was on the one end of the table, the people on the other end had a different piece, which was a little bit differently cooked. It was a bit longer, aged a bit longer, so the flavor was very intense. We didn't have the wine we recommended, so they had a bit of different experience. And that's also what we have at ontology. It's like a sort of product that is developed already for over several years. We put so much effort in it. We serve it a bit technical, and it's easier for people to adapt and work with it. So that's why we developed our case study or our use case, where we thought how can we provide the ontology in a more easy to adapt way by different other contractors or parties in the market, so they can use it in applications and it's since they know. So what did we do? We have our methodology at the top. We made an alignment to IFC, so we made linking sets, like these objects should have this IFC entity. We made a little bit of mapping between properties as well. We published the data in the PhD. So it is very easy to use when you create or edit a 3D model. And this part will be shown later by DigiBase. Now, on the other side, we also want, of course, it's for asset owner very important, check if what we get from a contractor is the right information. Is it how we ask it? Does it conform our information requirements? So with the help of the IDS, we created as well from our ontology because we already have the information requirements there. We created an IDS to check the model we got and verify if it's according to our information requirements. So how did we do it? We tried to make it very automatically because our ontology is pretty large, and if you had to make everything by hand, it's of course a lot of work. So we have this ontology published online, and with a SPOCO query, it's a special query for link data structure. We make a CSV out of it with the right information which we need for the BDCD. So we did a lot of testing with this to make the right input and follow the structure of the BDCD. And then we have this script, also to BDCD it's called, where we transform the CSV into a JSON file which we can upload in the BDCD. And the link is not totally correct, but it's on GitHub, so you can find it there. I can change the link a little bit, because there's a D missing there. So we can automatically always make a new version of all what you have published in the BDCD. That's what we did. So here you have an example of what we published, and it's a specific object. We have a button that's called a pump motor combination. You can find our unique identifier there. Also the label, how it's called, the definition, and you can see the related IC entity, it's a distribution flow element, and we have different property sets. So we use some of the same properties that were already available on IFC, such as the GTIN code and manufacturer, but there are also other properties in the ontology which are not in IFC. We made our own user-defined multi-net property sets with these properties. So first I'm going to show you a little demo. It's a video like how we actually don't want to have it. But it's how it actually normally goes. So let's see if I can start this. Oh, I think it's already started, right? Yeah. So we got our rapid model from like how we usually get it from a sewage pumping station. So it's a little model with different objects in there. And if you look at this model, it's maybe hard to read. We can see that they are not using the right IFC entities. They don't use our ontologies. There are not classifications according to our ontology in there. There are the right objects. They have the right geometry. The data is not correct or even filled in. And if we make our IDS based on our ontology, we can check it. We used Akka for this in the demo. We can upload the IFC there. Look for the same objects. And you can see here it's an IFC building element proxy, like most of the objects were in our models we are getting now. So if we, of course, upload our IDS, it's going to look for the right ontology classifications and the right IFC entities, but because they are not even in there, we can, everything is incorrect because we cannot find anything. And we want to improve this, of course, because if we're getting so many models multiple times, we want to automatically see if it's already that the basic parts are in there in the correct way. So to realize that, I will give the model and this presentation to Jan. And what's Stijn first?
Yes.
Okay. And they can show you what they are doing developing to improve this.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stijn. I'm here today with my colleague Jan Brouwer. We work for Digibase. Digibase is part of the Volk Wessels group. Volk Wessels is a large contractor in the Netherlands. And with Digibase, we help the companies within the group implementing BIM and scaling BIM throughout the whole process. And while doing that, we discovered that working with IDS, BCD, IFC is still complicated to do, and it's possible, but it's usually a BIM specialist job. And we try to make that more commonly available throughout the whole process, for more people accessible. And therefore we developed an open source BIM BSD toolkit, where we today launch actually the first plugin developed with that open source BSD toolkit, which is the Revit plugin. Jan will demo that in just a few seconds. Thereafter, Anouk will complete the story about this specific use case, and thereafter I will tell you where to get this BSD plugin for Revit for free. While Jan is doing the demo, I want you to imagine, I want you to realize that Jan will show it in Revit, but this workflow will be possible with this toolkit in every single software available. So also in CDE or in other modeling applications, you will be able to implement it in your software. It will thereby be also available for not only modelers, but just people in the field knowing how to add information to models. That will be probably very easy. So we will do a demo of this part of the process. So we, as a large contractor, are building a water supply building for WaterNet, and they delivered us their requirements, and we model in Revit, and we add the right classification. So, Jan, if you can show that. Yeah.
Let's switch to Revit, where you can see the same model that Anouk already showed. It's a very complex, detailed model with all these pumps and systems. And I'll switch to little simplified view. We agreed to work with these objects for this demo, and what we created is on the right hand side we have a filter menu, and we can say we want to select all the types in Revit and see if they work according to the rules that we set for it. I started to classify the floor object because that nicely demonstrates the link to the BSD, but that's not part of the demo I will do now. What we can do here is we go to in the settings menu, we can select dictionaries that are of interest to us. And for now, this is mostly the WaterNet OTL. So we select this as the main dictionary, and then I will add the classification set for the floor, so we can export it later on. Save, yes. And here you see all the objects are colored red. So, for example, I have this afsluiten objects. There are 3 classifications loaded in the Revit model, and they are all not set, all wrong. Only for the floor object, we have the basic building product and the IFC class that are correct, but there's no WaterNet OTL object. So what I will be doing now is take this afsluit object, that are those two objects, and I will go to the BSDD search window and search for off. And what it does now, it gets all the classifications at the top of the window, and below that, all the property sets that are important. And here you can see the IFC type is set to the valve, and the WaterNet object is called afsluiten. And what I will be doing now is see if I can get my table with objects. I have the data here for the afsluiter. So it's built in 2024 by Volker Wessels, and it has a tag code of this. And it's a product by Water Valves Incorporated. And we have this GTIN number. And now I say save. And oh, it's all green except for the basic building product that's not part of this check. So when I select this object, and here in the Revit properties, you can see there are properties generated for everything that WaterNet deems important, and properties are set, classifications are added for WaterNet, and I will do another object to show.
Maybe well, I'll just continue with classifying, but I want you to realize that this is a job that doesn't have to be done by a modeler, right? This is a job everyone can do in our industry. It's just adding information, filling in fields like you fill in a Google form or a questionnaire, adding the right information, and the IDS in combination with BSD in combination with our plugin ensures that the data is on the right spot with the right syntax, no typos in the model, right? So that will be possible with if we have this workflow in a stable way in our process. And Jan is
almost ready.
Let's talk long enough.
Okay, now I have this object also completed. So there's a WaterNet OTL and an IFC classification set. And what we did add is we added our own IFC export button. It takes a Revit export profile that we predefined, but people can extend and change themselves. But a few specific things we need for the BSD are set on top of that. So when we export this, and yeah. This is the export I already did. I will put this next to it. So exporting takes a little while, so I want to switch to this viewer that we already prepared for it. And one thing that we can see here is the building of the floor object that has a basic building product defined and a link to the BCD. So if we open this, we directly go from the model to the definition of this object on BSDB. And the thing for WaterNet that's most important is the other object, of course, where we have a similar link to an object, but this one is hosted on the WaterNet OTL page. So we go directly to all information that's available for this object. Directly at source through the BSDB. Yeah.
that's it. It's not more complicated than that. So we give back the word to Anouk.
You never know what it's like demo it goes well, of course. So thank you, Keybase, for bringing as a new IFC model with our information requirements as we provided. And now I'm going to show a bit more the creation of the IDS, because I skipped in the first part that we also make automatically an IDS from our ontology. And then I will show a movie where we check the IDS with this IDS generated. So the IDS is generated in a little bit the same way as we create a JSON file for BACD. So we have the same environment, the right-hand OTL with IFC alignments. We made a little bit of a difference query this time because we need some different specifications in the IDS from our ontology. And we can CSP as well. Then we have this second script called onto to IDS, which is also published on GitHub, so other people can use it as well. And we generate an IDS XML file, and then we are ready to check our models. And for this part, the query we provide on GitHub is very broad, that we can get all the information from the ontology in there, because it's a very large file, but for this demo, we changed a little bit to make it small and show that we have only 4 objects with a few requirements there. So we uploaded the new IFC, we already exported the objects we changed with the sewage pumping station. And you can already see there is more information in there and other entities. So that already looks good if you are checking it yourself. Then we upload the same IDS file as in the previous part. And here we see that there are much more things are past the checking. And if you go a bit more in detail there, you can find that we have the right entities with our ontology specifications, the right names we want for Waternet, and properties are filled in, so we have the correct information. Automatically, and we only have to check now, of course, if the data is actually correct, filled in by the content.
Thank you so much for the demo. I think it was like really challenging with the live demo and the recording. So well done. And now back to you, Stijn, to explain what was the motivation behind building this tool.
Yes, thanks. Today we officially release our open source BSD toolkit. And we developed that last few months together with actually some competitors. So in the Netherlands, we work together with this team, mostly from Heijmans, which is also a large contractor, just like ourselves in the Netherlands, and we work together with them to actually build this open source plugin. And we mainly focused on 2 things while doing that, and while our goal was to not just improve our own information quality, but we wanted to improve the whole information quality a little bit in the Netherlands of the whole construction industry, actually. And that was first, we collaborated on a usable data dictionary content, which is usable in the Netherlands for all the people in the Netherlands. If you want to know more about how we did it, so how we aligned international, national, and local standards, uploaded that to the BSD and made that usable, then you should join the product domain session at 3:30 this afternoon. Then we will explain together with Radboud about how we did that, and we do also a live demo how you can use that in your project. And the second thing, what we developed was the OpenBSD toolkit, because you can have great usable content uploaded in the BSD, but if it's too difficult to use by common people in our process, then it will not work. So because we didn't saw any tools which gave us the possibility to use our own content, we actually decided to start making the plugins ourselves. And what we tried to achieve, what we had in mind is it should be simple for the end user. It can be technical, very complicated. We have discovered that during this project. So technically, it's very complicated. For the specialists, they really have a challenge in connecting all the dots, developing the software, making usable content. But in the end, for the end user, they shouldn't. You've just seen it what Jan did in the demo. It can be really simple for them. We also saw that the technology maybe is not perfect in some people's eyes, but while doing it, we saw that it's already super useful, and it's a huge step in comparison to do what we do right now with Excel sheets and copy pasting and manually adding p-sets to objects. So that's also why we just start doing this open source and hope people will contribute, and then while doing optimized technology, maybe even better. What also was important is that we just shared the Revit plugin, but actually if I look at our projects and we have, for example, 100 people working on our project, only maybe 1% of the people is working in Revit as a modeler. All the other 99 are working in common data environments, are working in ERP systems, are working in other tools. So while developing this, we kept in mind that especially for all those other 99 people, we need to have this technology and this things, for everyone available in there to work for. But it can be with a comparable workflow. So that will really help. And we try to lower the threshold for software developers to just start with this. So that's why we did it open source. You can look at our ideas, look at how we look at the technology and adopt that. You can copy paste the code if you want, or you can contribute to it if you want, but you can also look at how our vision is. So that's why we did it. This is where you can download it. Maybe I can click on it to show you. It's on GitHub right now. Let me try what's happening. It's over here. And here you have an asset button, and here you can just download the installer and try it yourself. So let's see if I got anything else. We have a lot of ideas of improvement for future development, so please come help us with that. I'm not going to elaborate on what we think we need to do in the next few months. But one of the things we want to do is IDS integration in this workflow in that plugin as well. So thanks for your attention, and if there's any questions, we're happy to help.
Yes, now it's time for you to ask questions to our guests. Thank you so much once again for showing this practical example how you actually use it on your projects. And if you have a question, please raise your hand. We will give you a microphone. You can turn this on. Or who wants to start? Okay, then I can start. So you said IFC doesn't have all of the names that you need, and you want all of the subcontractors to deliver you consistent data. Can you give us a raw estimate how many of those terms you have to add to your ontology? You said it's deep, but is it like 100 elements or 100 definitions or?
It's a few hundreds.
Few hundreds, yeah. So I think we also touched on this during the first day, that IFC is foundation with the basic terminology, but you always need to have more specialist terms added on top of that, and this is a place where you can publish it. Okay, there is a question in the back. I think I will remain here. Yeah, thanks.
So thanks for the presentation. So you were talking about BSCD basically expanding the range of parameters and data we want to do that, and also ideas for the data round trip that we said before in the blocks of buildingSMART. My question was about the process and also the collaboration. In the slide that you were showing at the start, DCF was grayed out. Question is that we are not talking about collaboration, filling those parameters required in your use case from what's an ontology. What if I want this to be filled by different partners? You know, with the CD approach, is this on your roadmap to be included in the tool?
Is this working?
I hope it is.
Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. This is something we would like to add in our ontology. So now it's just objects with properties and documents, but we are working in our information management team. Talk to all these different people who are running the business, what information we need at which moment. So we can also specify more so which specific part of data you need for whom, what time, and then we can also use the query to give a little bit more of a smaller part of the ontology and give better requirements which you actually need.
Yeah, maybe to answer that, because I think that's a crucial part of our next development is that you like make IDS per phase in the project, and that IDS determines what fields to fill in like the form. And if you do that, add that in the process, then just structural engineering at the beginning of the project, that's just 3 or 4 fields to fill in. And while doing that using different IDSs, you can
Would be also, well, I do not expect a particular answer this time, but it's interesting to me 2 points. How do you utilize the DCF, concepts for that collaboration? And the second is that what would be your reference for your requirements? Ontologies of the clients or the BSCD as a whole for the data?
I can start because I got this question before in similar context. First of all, about the terminology. In this case, it was, let's say, developed a bit bottom up. They had a particular use case in the Netherlands. They managed all of the water infrastructure, which is, you could say, a top-down approach because it's a huge ecosystem, let's say. But Anouk was presenting this called participation, where you want to also align with different similar organizations to come up with the consistent terminology, right? And the BCF was grayed out on this screen because we only have 1.5 hours. But of course, all of those solutions, they are related. And when you actually deliver the models, the data, of course, BCF is helpful to discuss the topics, not issues, topics that you have during your design. And I think we just had to focus on a narrow part of the whole workflow, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Artur. I think ontology, we made this about it because it was a very big need to define our information requirements so that we can ask what we want. And we know the stage that we can ask this. If we want to collaborate more and make it more uniform with other organizations or internationally. So what we ask is, it's not so strange or so specific only for our company, but it's more commonly used by more other companies as well.
Okay, thanks. Can you take the microphone?
No.
You can start with this one.
Great, thank you. My question is, how did you define the mapping of the ontology onto IMC? Was this a manual process or automated?
It's now manually done, so we put it in our ontology with a linked data mapping. With the process of defining which entities for which object takes actually a pretty long time. So we want to improve it for these 4 objects of IFV used during the demo. I think we're looking at like 2 hours to discuss which are the best entities. So that's also something we discussed this morning in this water domain session, that we need to collaborate more to do this make it more easy, because otherwise it will take so much time.
Thank you.
Maybe to answer, because I recognize the discussion because while working with, I'm also our competitor contractor in the Netherlands, we had super long discussions about which entity belongs to which object, and then also which base quantities were exported with which certain entity, and then sometimes you had to choose for another entity because the base quantities were just better for that specific points value. So that's also why I think we have we need an analysis, or we need a regional or national base for that. You have, like, of course, you have the international base, which is IFC. On top of that, you have your national standard, hopefully, and we will work towards that. With our competitors, and then you have the local definition, and that's what's on that.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Do you lost anything in the passage between ontology and so the ontology was richer than the BSCD, or?
Yes, the ontology there's more information in there. So we just define what we need in BSCD. But I think with the newer version of BSCD, we can have there's already a little bit more content we can publish there. So I think this is a process of improvement which we are working on. So maybe an example what we not having here is, I think we do have external relations, and we have like this is parent class or subclass. But we don't have the decomposition relation. So like sewage pumping system consists of different other objects.
Yeah, and also it was a nice learning experience because we could improve the service while doing this project and while listening to the feedback. Even though BSDD is made on top of international standards, there are always things that we can make simpler or add more features to make it more user-friendly. And I really liked what you, Stijn, explained, that you were trying to focus on simplicity for the user, but also like to have this whole technical functionality in the background so that we still benefit from consistent data, but users are not confused now that they have to know how the data works and how the API to connect to the link data ontology is functioning, right? So I really admire this approach. Yes, okay, please.
Thank you. For the BSDD, so you get the data by party on your holiday goes to BSDD. So other people can do the similar.
Yeah.
How to grant the quality of the data goes to BSDD. Because later on, you need to use it to define IDS, and can those data be linked to check your IDS specification?
I can try. Please add to this. In BSDD, I have a slide after that, 100 organizations that publish their classifications, their data dictionaries. Waternet is one of them, and they are a brand on its own in the Netherlands. So people that are working for Waternet, they trust the content published by Waternet, and nobody else can affect this content. So now, if you have an organization, let's say from Holland, they cannot just go and edit the definitions because those are maintained by the Waternet organization, and the same logic follows for other dictionaries as well. So,
but this is from Waternet.
Yes.
That is Waternet A. They developed with similar Waternet-related ontology.
yes.
They also want to publish the content into BSDD. And we have exclusive rights to set the boundary?
Yes, I understand the question, thank you. We, in BSDD, allow people to upload the definitions they need for their purpose, but we highly recommend to reuse the content that is already there, because this way we increase the data consistency. So the topic of today's session, and for example, in this case, the terminology was already tested in practice. So if you need to start from scratch, it's always good to get inspired by something that is already tested. But of course, if people already have their own dictionary or classification that was developed in parallel, so they were not aware of this one, they can publish it in BSDG and make mapping, saying that our definition of a water pipe something is exactly the same as the definition they use in the Netherlands. So even though they are talking about different objects, through the BZD, the software and people can know that those concepts are equal or they are maybe not equal, and that's also really important information. So this information is already included and can be included in BZD through those relations. But there was a question before about the limitations. So linked data allow you to have a very, let's say, flexible structure of the data. You could define your own relations between different objects. And in BZD, we have limitations because we want BZD to be also accessible through the software, and the software needs to know exactly how to interpret the content. So we cannot allow for all freely defined relations. We need to have some strict rules, like we allow the composition now, the hierarchy, and so on.
Maybe also nice to add is that the Waternet ontology is also based on other Dutch standards, and we have links in our ontology. Now, I talked with Artur 2 weeks ago. We can also add these references in BZD now, although they are not in the BZD, so we can refer to other standards outside the BZD. It's, I think, a nice new feature.
Yes, and what Jan was presenting was also quite cool to me, because while he only selected the definition from Otternet, because BZD already knew that this definition should be mapped to such and such code from different dictionary, this information could be also added like semi-automatically because those relations are clearly defined. So yeah, that's another level that can be also useful to some use cases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I also think is really interesting for the BZD is that it's a bit simplified linked data. I think that's perfectly mapped to IFC and all modeling tools. So that helps a lot with the data consistency.
Yeah, we always need to balance the simplicity and the flexibility and user friendliness and technical features that we want to have. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but I think we have the same struggles in all of the domains, all of the sectors. Is there another question?
Yes, thank you, obviously, to all of the speakers, and also thank you for developing all the analysis of the source. I think my question is for Anouk. So you started in the beginning by saying that you have an OTL, you have your own dictionary, but I think you mentioned now with the needs in the restaurant experience that for the users it wasn't the best experience, and that was the reason why you wanted to publish that dictionary recently. I'm not sure if I've seen the answer if publishing that dictionary to BZD gave a better experience for the user. So what do you think?
Yeah, we didn't give an answer to that. That's correct. I think it's we believe that it's easy to use in your own software applications. So you can use these different plugins. Now, the first one for Revit, I think, which especially advanced that many companies are using, which will really help them to model their IFC models easier. Maybe you can also say something about that, because I'm not using it, but you are doing it.
Yeah, let me say that due to the plugins and so it starts with the OTL with structured data, which that's already, and it's already also a nice UI where you publish your OTL and people just can look at it. That's already better than it was, right?
True.
It was in Excel sheets and it was in, now we have like a website where everyone can query it, and that's the starting point. And then getting that into the models in a consistent way, so that everyone looks at the same looks at the same quality of data throughout the whole process. That will definitely be possible with 6.2.
I got a question before the session at the corridor, but I think it's worth mentioning here. Somebody asked me, how long does it take from the moment we publish the data dictionary in BZD to seeing it, for example, in Revit, your tool? And, well, I would say it's a matter of seconds. Yesterday we saw that it's a matter of maybe half an hour, but it's immediately accessible for all of the software that integrates with BZD. So thanks to the developments that we have, it's immediately accessible for all of your subcontractors. we'll have a few minutes at the end for if you have more questions, but I have also a few slides about the BSDD updates and translation. So allow me to say a few words about the translation project. So when we are talking about data consistency, one of the challenges we discovered is that even though IFC is quite comprehensive, it has many definitions, like this one that you can see on the screen. It's actually my favorite entity from IFC. Sometimes we see that people are not so happy with those definitions, and they still prefer to see something in their language, in their according to their use case, their context. So they often give a new name to properties. They invent new properties. So how do we maintain consistent data and allow users to see more, let's say, user-friendly terms? So that's the foundation for our translation project. So if I try to split it into words, if I don't want to see this machine interpretable format, I would split it like that. But since I'm Polish myself, I prefer to see odzysk ciepła powietrze typu pętle odzyskiwania entalpii w wieżach bliźniaczych. Probably Spanish person would prefer different name to be visible in the software. And there are many of us in this room, and we all would prefer to see different name in the software. But I think all of us would agree that we want the data to be consistent. We are talking about the same object. We want to have the same data in our database, in our IFC file, and so on. So that's why we started the translation project, and recently we saw a lot of effort done by the chapters who are leading the translations in their countries. And we have a few assumptions for this project. First of all, we don't change the standard. The ISO standard stays the same. It's in English, and those terms that you see in the standard are codes. They are not user-friendly names. Sorry for that. And we are not changing the content of existing files or the new files that you will create. So the IFC stays the same, but we will show those translations in the BSDD, so that if you go to the BSDD website, you will see option to change the language to a different one. In this way, you can better interpret the IFC content, and you can see it in a more familiar way. And all of the people that provide references to BSD will be able also to see these translations. And because BSDD provides the API, the software may, of course, it depends on their development, they can also display those translations inside the software. It's up to the software vendors if they want to do it or not, but thanks to the translation, that is official translation coming from buildingSMART chapters, they can do that. And we hope that it will help to popularize the IFC and help people learn about IFC and understand what are the different definitions. And I was very surprised to see how our languages differ. Sometimes there is no exact equivalent in a different language. Sometimes the equivalent is very confusing because it has slightly different meaning. So I'm really glad to have chapters who are actually experts in their own languages to do this work. And we have a dedicated platform, crowding platform, that is helping us to streamline this whole process. And each translation team has their own interface where they see all of the terms. We also try to use the automatic translation with translation engines, but most of them were not really useful because the terms that we are using are often depending on the context. So we need human experts to actually approve the terms that are being translated. And before the summit, we saw a lot of work really conducted by the Spanish chapter. Amazing work. They translated more than 50,000 words already, and they're still working on it. But yeah, I would like to applaud all of the chapters because it's really amazing work that they are doing, and keep up this good work. And we automatically publish those translations that are approved by chapters, by experts in BSDD. So if you go to BSDD now and search for the wall, you will see this wall being accessible in different languages, but what's important here that the machine interpretable code and the URI identifier, they always remain consistent. Only the definition and the human-friendly name is translated. So, yeah, I think that's the main highlight from this I wanted you to know about. And one slide about the updates from last summit. So right now in the BSD database, we have over 100 organizations, 103 who are registered, and they altogether published 80 unique dictionaries, altogether containing 60,000 classes and 50,000 properties. Of course, some of them overlap, some of them are mapped together, some of them are completely unique, but it's already starting to be quite a broad range of definitions that we have. There are already 10 software solutions that we are aware of that integrate with BSD, and your plugin being one of them, and at least 5 more that we are aware that are being developed. So it's almost double the number since summit we had in Rome last year. And some numbers, so the usage of BSD in terms of how many requests we got to our database. Last month it was 70,000 requests for the information, and almost 300 updates to the content, so 300 new publications of the dictionaries or translations. And yeah, we also tried to estimate from how many regions people come. We have right now around 160 unique cities identified from which people access BSD only last month. Okay, there are also many technical updates. If you are interested in them, we publish everything on the buildingSMART forum. There is a dedicated topic. If you go to the BSD website, you will see the link to this updates page. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but mainly those are features that increase the performance. They improve the API so that it's easier to integrate with BSD. And we also added some features that hopefully will make BSD more user-friendly, both for those that maintain the content and also for those that only pull the information and use it in their tools. There are many things we would like to do. We have a lot of really big ambitions, but really limited resources. But next in our timeline is definitely to add the remaining translations, improve the web search experience of BSD. We are constantly discussing the procedure to verify the content and give it, let's say, a Twitter verified star to say, okay, buildingSMART has looked at the content and we think it's legit, let's say, and provide more guidance how to use BSD, how to start using it, and how to, let's say, maybe access it through different software solutions. And BSD is one of the strategic projects, so we are also looking for partners and sponsors who would like to help us take it to the next level. Otherwise, we will still progress, but slower. So if you have interest in it, please contact us after the session. And if you are new to BSD, I hope this slide will help you start with BSD. So first of all, check if your software already integrates with BSD or if there are nice plugins that help you use BSD from your software. Or just browse the BSD database through our Schaijk page, which will give you an overview of what content already exists. And you can, of course, manually copy-paste the information. Find the term that you need, that you find relevant for you. Specify this content in your IDS specification, or place this information in your IFC files as references to, for example, BSD or other websites, because as we've shown today, the references can be pointing to, for example, WaterNet, link data website. It doesn't have to be necessarily BSD. And I put this asterisk in case you don't find the term that you need. In this case, if those 60,000 terms are not enough for you, you can always register your organization and publish the content that you need, because maybe it will help others also to use consistent terminology. So if you want to publish in BCP, we have a registration form on the website. Then you can use existing software solutions to publish in BCP, or use our JSON or Excel template and upload it through BCP website. We have a management portal to admin to manage the content, and we allow you to just upload it in BCP and see how it looks from the software that you're already familiar with. And as soon as you are satisfied with the content, you can set the status to active and indicate that this content is already considered useful and can be used by others in their projects, on their contracts. So this is how to start with BSDD, and I would like to once again thank you a lot for coming here, for telling us about your use case and your software. And if there are any more questions, please go ahead. We still have more than 15 minutes for those. And we will start with the online question, which is, will the user tool demonstrated during this session be available to the public? And if so, when? This was already answered, but Jan, could you reply to when will the tool be available to the public?
Yesterday.
Yeah, the first preview version is live, so you can try it, and please report any issues you encounter.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted you to say it. Is there another question in the audience? Okay, there is one in the back.
Can you go back to that slide that says how many classes and properties are in the...
Yes?
I kind of just felt the urge to give an extra applause to this.
And to be fair, last time we were showing all of the content, including the test server, but this is just from the production server, so from the official BSDD, and it's already quite impressive how many definitions we have. And I think many more to come, because I know many organizations are currently curating the data dictionaries that they want to publish. So hopefully this number will, hopefully at some point it stops rising, because we want people to use consistent terminology, not just invent new terms. But I'm really glad that the usage of BSDD is constantly increasing every month. Thank you. Okay, unless there is another question, I think we can finish the session a bit earlier and have more time for coffee and lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.